All right, so today we're jumping into a topic that has fascinated and honestly mystified people for a long, long time: the rapture. It's a huge piece of a very specific belief about the end times, and it's filled with some seriously dramatic ideas. So, what's the deal with it, really? Think about this for a second. In the twinkling of an eye, that's from the biblical book of First Corinthians, and it paints this incredible picture of a sudden, instantaneous vanishing act. I mean, it's the picture that's launched 1,000 books and movies, right? Cars left driverless, clothes just empty on the ground. It's a powerful image. So, yeah, we've all seen the dramatic interpretations. But what's the actual belief behind it all? Where did this idea even come from? What is described as happening? And why in the world do its followers see it as a message of hope? That's what we're going to get into right now, using the original texts as our map. Okay, so first things first, the word rapture itself. You'd think a word that big would be plastered all over the source texts, right? Well, the story behind the word is kind of surprising. And get this is a big one for a lot of people. The word rapture isn't actually in the English Bible, not once, which, can be a bit of a shock. So you've got to ask, if it's not in the text, where in the world did we get it from? Well, the answer actually comes from Latin. It's from an old Latin translation of the Bible called the Vulgate. A Greek phrase for "we shall be caught up" got translated into one Latin word, rapiamu. And boom, from rapiamu, we eventually get our English word, rapture. And here it is. You can see the direct connection right there. Simul rapiemur, which means we shall be caught up together. It's pretty wild how one single word can travel through history and language like that to become something so well known. Okay, so that's the word. But what about the event itself? What do the source texts actually say is supposed to happen? Let's dig into the mechanics of it. Man, this passage from Thessalonians really paints a picture, doesn't it? This is not some quiet, sneaky thing. No way. We're talking a shout, the voice of an archangel, a trumpet blast from God himself. This is a full-on cosmic announcement. And it's not random either. The text lays out a very specific order of events. First, the Lord descends with a shout. Then you hear that trumpet. And then, and this is a really important detail, believers who have already passed away are said to rise first. Only after that do the living believers get caught up to join them in the air. Okay, but wait a second. A trumpet? If you know these texts, you know there are other trumpets mentioned, especially in the book of Revelation, and that can get really confusing. But the source material is actually super clear that this trumpet is different. So let's break it down, because this distinction is critical. The trumpet of God at the rapture, its purpose is to call believers home. It's a signal for them. But those 7 trumpets in Revelation, totally different. Those are about announcing judgment and woe on the earth. So think of it this way. One is a rescue call, and the others are basically warning sirens. All right, so we've got the what down, but the big question is when? Where does the rapture fit in the whole end times timeline that these texts describe? So in this specific theological view, the rapture is basically the starting gun. It's the event that takes believers off the earth right before this intense 7-year period of judgment, known as the tribulation, kicks off. This whole idea, rapture first, then tribulation, is the cornerstone of what people call pre-tribulation theology. It's a system that really got popular back in the 19th century, and it sets the stage for everything that follows. And the way this all starts, the text gives us this really famous image: a thief in the night. And that's exactly the point. It's supposed to be sudden, completely unexpected, catching everyone who isn't ready totally by surprise. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The rapture isn't just this standalone thing that happens. No, it's positioned as the catalyst. It's the trigger. The whole idea is that the sudden vanishing of all these people is what immediately ushers in this period that the text calls the day of the Lord, or sudden destruction. This brings us to what might be one of the wildest aspects of the whole belief. What actually happens to the people who are part of the rapture? We're talking about a total, ultimate transformation of the human body. Yeah, this line from 1 Corinthians says it all. The belief is that our normal physical bodies, the ones that get sick, get old, and eventually die, are completely remade. They become immortal and incorruptible. Death is just not a thing for them anymore. And it's not just a vague idea. the texts get really specific about what these new glorified bodies are like, basing them on how Christ's body was described after his resurrection. So they're physical, they can be touched, they can eat, but they can also do impossible things, like pass right through walls or ascend straight up into heaven. So, why? What's the point of this incredible change? Well, according to the scripture, the whole purpose is to make the believer's body just like Christ's own resurrected, glorious body. It's seen as the final piece of the puzzle for salvation, a complete transformation inside and out. I know what you might be thinking. People disappearing, judgment, cosmic changes. It sounds terrifying, right? But what's so interesting is that within the source material, it's never framed that way. It's always presented as a moment of ultimate triumph, of hope. It all comes down to this one incredible line: death is swallowed up in victory. And that's what leaves us with this final, really powerful question. The original passage literally ends by saying, "Therefore, comfort one another with these words." So you have to wonder, how is this story, a story about a sudden, world-altering event that kicks off a period of global judgment, ultimately seen by its followers not as a message of fear, but as one of profound comfort? That's something to really think about.